If German power metal is your thing, then keep watching, because today I'm going to bring you a brand new review of the latest Helloween album. This album came out just last week and it's absolute brilliant, so keep on watching to find out everything you need to know about it. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're going to be reviewing a brand new release by this band, Helloween, German power metal at its very best. They're back and they're bigger than ever, both sonically and actual in terms of personnel, with the return of the Keeper of the Seven Keys era vocalist Michael Kiske and also the original founding member Kai Hansen on guitars. Helloween in 2021 now have 7 members, 3 guitarists and 2 or even 3 vocalists if you count Kai Hansen's contribution on a couple of the songs. This should prove messy, but actually it works really well. Musically, you wonder why more bands don't work with multiple vocalists, because it really makes really good songs into absolutely great songs. How it works for Helloween really is it's all about Michael Kiske. Really, he's the sort of main vocalist and he sings in a much more higher register. Andy Derris, the vocalist over the last sort of 20 odd years, sings as much lead as Michael does, but he's got a much lower more guttural sort of voice. But the combination of him and the higher registry of Michael Kiske really makes a really excellent sound when it comes to the vocals. Kai Hansen's got a higher raspy type of voice. It's probably not as good as it was when he was the original singer of Helloween way back in the sort of mid 80s, and he's used quite sparingly on the album, but he does contribute quite a bit to his self-penned, his own song that he wrote, Skyfall, but more about that later. Musically, 3 guitarists work just fine. I mean, it's not really clear who plays what in terms of the solos, in terms of the lead breaks. But, you know, bands like Iron Maiden have been working with 3 guitarists for a number of years and it's worked pretty well for them. It gives more opportunities for multiple solos, more dual and maybe even triple lead playing at times. But I must also praise, in terms of the musicality of this album, is the contribution from Daniel Lobel. His high energy double bass playing reminds me of their sort of original drummer Ingo Schwitzenberg. It's maybe because he actually uses the late drummer's original kit that he played on the Keeper albums, and also the drum sound is pretty damn good on this album. It was all recorded on in analog, and I think that gives a much cleaner, much better, less processed drum sound. Ultimately, for me, the album is an amalgamation really of all the eras of Helloween. With Kiske as the main singer, there are obvious comparisons to those Keeper albums and the 80s sort of output by Helloween, but it's not a nostalgic nod to that era, and there's much more the sort of recent Helloween sound and their recent albums with Andy Derris, so it doesn't sound like Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2.5. I mean, my love of Helloween was really with the albums with Kiske singing, and I never really got on with Andy Derris's voice. I mean, I haven't really given Helloween much of a big listen over the last 20 odd years, but after listening to this album I've realised that Andy Derris has got quite a unique voice and it fits in really well, and it's made me sit up and reevaluate those the last sort of 20 years of albums, and I think his voice really complements Michael Kiske's, and I think it's it makes this album a real stunner. So let's go through all of the tracks, track by track. So track 1 opens up with a song called Out of the Glory. This is penned by Michael Wyckoff, one of the guitarists and former and original members. It's got a very sort of South of Heaven by Slayer sort of original riff in it, and it's it's quite unusual. But then the drums come in and it's a real typical Helloween power metal anthem. Michael sings with the majority of the vocals on this, and straight away it's like you're listening to this the follow-up to Eagle Fly Free. His voice is as good, if not better, than it was back in the 80s. Andy Darius pops up with little flourishes, and Kai Hansen appears. It does some vocals on this song as well. It really is all about the intertwining of the two vocals, and there's lots of guitar playing, there's lots of solos and dual lead playing. It's a great opener for the album. Track 2 is the already released single, Fear of the Fallen, and it is one of the best tracks from the album. I mean, Andy Darius is the lead singer here, and it starts off quite slow and melodic. And to me, he's never sounded better. It then erupts into a real sort of double bass heavy metal anthem, and you're listening to Helloween. Michael Kiss harmonises on a lot of the throughout the songs. But you really feel that Andy stepped up his game to go toe to toe with Michael on this. There's lots of great harmonising, and I just think that it takes this song to the next level. As I said earlier, I think the introduction of having two main vocalists really makes a really good song into a really great song. I mean, I don't know how this song would have sounded with just one vocalist, because the different voices and the different harmonising really makes the hair step up, go up on the back of my neck, really, because it's really, really exciting to listen to. Again, multitude of guitar solos, and really shows the talent that there is between all the instrumentalists on this track. I think Fear of the Fallen is one of the best tracks on the album, if not the best, but I at the moment I would say it's probably second or third to some of the other tracks. Track 3, this could be one of the best tracks on the album. This is where they go back, they take a step back from the sort of big power metal anthems, and it's a bit more shorter, catchier, a little bit more commercial. It's called Best Time, and it's really how I'm feeling when I listen to this album. Michael Kiske sings, I will have the best time of my life. And it sounds like it. Again, trading verses and harmonising with Andy throughout. If there was ever a sort of successor to the really catchy I Want Out from Keeper of the Seven Keys 2, then this song is it. Track 4 is an interesting one. Mass Pollution, it's called. It starts with a big long guitar sort of feedback sound before Marcos Grosskopf bass line really sort of kicks into gear. It starts off quite angry. Andy Darius sings the lead at the beginning of this, and he sort of channels his innermost sort of John Oliver from the power rock band Sabotage. If you've ever heard Sabotage and John Oliver's singing on this, it really reminded me of this on this track. But then it sort of kicks into a really catchy chorus, more multiple guitar solos, and again it's another favourite from the album. The 5th track is called Angels, and again we see a sort of slight step change with a bit more of a melodic cinematic sort of start to the song, but then the double bass kicks in and we're back into traditional Helloween power metal territory. I think Michael Kiske, again, he sings his heart out on this song, and there's lots of little time changes, and it just makes it a little bit more interesting than some of the other songs. It's probably the track that feels more different than anything else from the album, and it's actually been written by their guitarist Sascha Gersner. It proves that they have a wealth of songwriting talent on the band. There's quite a lot of different contributions throughout the album in terms of the songs. Track 6, Rise Without Chains, is another head-banging, fist-pumping anthem with another standout performance from Andy Darius and Michael Kiske, adding some really majestic, high-register harmonies. When Andy sings, you think, yeah, this is really good. He's really going toe-to-toe with Michael Kiske. But then Michael sort of steps up and goes, oh, wait a minute. I'm the high register singer here, and you can it's amazing after all those years that have passed since the Keeper albums how much his voice is still as good as it was then. In fact, as I said, he's got a bit more strength and a little bit more sort of timbre to his voice than he once had. So he's not sort of screaming all the time. There's a lot more warmth, I think, in his voice. It's a vocal masterclass, and it really, for me, it puts a real big smile on my face. And just again, it's great to have those two singers. Track 7 is called Indestructible. It's a typical Helloween. It's catchy, it's anthemic, it's got a big sing-along chorus. I'm sure it's going to be a real live favourite. It's a shorter track. It's more in line with sort of the track 3, the best time, sort of shorter, more direct sort of song. Then we go into something that's a little less direct, Robot King. It's a sort of mini epic at 7 minutes. It heads straight into with a real powerful scream by both Michael Kiske and Andy Deris. And then Andy takes the lead vocals and then flips over to Michael Kiske singing a verse, and they sort of change over each time, singing it with a different, their own unique style. I mean, it's a great song, but I think it could have probably been a bit more. It would have been better if it was a little bit shorter. It doesn't really need to be over its up to his 7 minutes. It's not in an epic in that it's got slow bits and faster bits in it. It's all very quite relentless, and it does maybe go on a little longer than it needs to be. Track 9 is called Cyanide, and again, this is another sing-along like Indestructible and Best Time. It's equally as good as those songs, but it's not that much different to them. Then we go to track 10. This is called Down in the Dumps. You've got a big guitar sound. The first minute is pretty much all instrumental before Michael Kiske's melodic vocals really sort of take over. There's another big chorus, and it's another great headbanger. It's similar to me to the song Rise Without Chains. It's sort of almost like a brother and sister of it as a song, really, the songs there. Then we slow things down with track 11. It's called Orbit, but it's really just a little instrumental intro to the next song. It reminds me a little bit of Follow the Sign from the Keeper One album. As I say, it's only a 1 and a bit minutes of an instrumental sound, but then it goes into the final track and probably the biggest showcase of the album. A lot of people that are watching this review may have heard this song, Skyfall. It's a big epic. It's along the lines of your sort of Helloween from Keeper One, or Keeper of the Seven Keys, the song from the Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2 album. It's the big epic. It was released before the album in a sort of 8 minute, which is still a pretty long song, edit, but this here on the album you get the full 12 minutes, and it's got lots of twists and turns really, and again you got the interplay between Michael and Andy really in a real bombastic way, trading vocal lines, telling the story basically of an alien that's crashed down on Earth and is captured. This is the only Kai Hansen pen track on the album, which I was a little bit surprised with, because he certainly contributes a lot of writing in those sort of early days, and he sings a little bit on this song as well. He sort of gives a sort of third vocal sort of style with his very raspy vocals. It's a little bit slower and melodic, his singing, and he reminds me a little bit. He's trying to sound a bit like David Bowie in Space Oddity really, but the whole track again, it's the big standout. It's the big epic. And to be honest, even though it's 12 minutes, it flies by in no time at all. I mean, what does the extended version from the album give compared to the edit? Well, it's 4 minutes longer, but it doesn't really add too much more. There's a lot more extended guitar solos, a little bit more instrumental and vocal passages, which is all good, but I don't think it really adds any more than the edit. The edit was pretty damn good as a sort of, how can you call it a single when it's 8 minutes? But it's either track is still pretty good, and really it showcases. This song is if you listen to this song first before you understand it, it really showcases what Helloween's all about in 2021. It showcases the different styles in the two different vocalists and lots of different guitar instrumental parts in it. It's a brilliant really track, and it ends the album with a as great ending as it started. To be honest, all the way through, it's a really tremendous album. It's very difficult to pick out best tracks. It's nearly every track on it is good, and some of them are really great. As I said, I think my favourite tracks are the sort of very catchy Best Times, and also like Mass Pollution because it's a little bit different. And again, Fear of the Fallen is a brilliant track. Skyfall, obviously a brilliant track. I think Angels is a little bit different. So there's loads of tracks that I like. And all the other ones, there's nothing bad about them. I think if I was going to pick out a track that I would probably say the worst one on the album, I would probably say Robot King. It doesn't really sort of, it doesn't sort of resonate with me quite like the other tracks really. But give it a few more listens and I'd probably make it my favourite track. So that's the album. I mean, if you listen to this on streaming platforms, you also get a few of the or you've bought the deluxe edition, you also get a few bonus tracks. They're equally up to the standard, really, the album. They don't feel like sort of a B-sides or anything. They're still really great tracks. I won't go into too much detail about those, but they're still really good tracks. So for me, it's a brilliant return to form for these German power metalers. With all the sort of egos and personalities, it could be misjointed when you've got 7 people in the band, and you know, four or five of them are contributing to songwriting. In fact, everyone contributes to songwriting except for Michael Kiske and the drummer. So there's lots, makes all the songs pretty good because everyone's coming from different influences and everything. It could have been a bit misjointed. It could have been a little bit like a sort of tribute act to their to themselves, really, from their sort of 80s. But for me, it really sort of takes what Helloween's been all about over the 35 years and put them into one package. Is it better than the standout, you know, seen by most of the fans as the best albums, The Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 and Part 2? I think only time will tell. It's certainly very close, and I can't wait to see them play this live in 2022. So, Pumpkins United, they certainly are. Hope you've enjoyed this review for the new Helloween album. If you haven't got it, check out the description here. I've got a link to the Spotify with the albums on, but it's on all available platforms. Obviously, you can buy the CD or vinyl even directly from their website. It's a really great album. If you haven't listened to Helloween for a number of years, then you should get back into it now, because I don't know, maybe it's a nostalgia for me. I've always loved sort of the sort of Helloween with Michael Kiske, and I just, you know, and listening to it again and hearing his voice singing Helloween songs in a sort of modern and fresh way, to me, you know, brings back memories of the heydays. But I also see them pushing on, and I just hope they continue with this sort of with all the 7 members in it, because I think I can't see them going back now. It's that good, that different. So if you've listened to the album or you've heard a couple of the tracks, let me know in the comments what you think of them. What's your favourite track off the album? Is there another band as good as Helloween when it comes to European power metal? I don't know. Let me know again in the comments. And until the next one, you know what you got to do. Keep on rocking.